Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Dr. Daniel over here, and today's video is a little bit unique. Guess what? You haven't seen black chickens on my farm before, right? This is a different breeds of birds. Have you heard of Kuroilers? This is what we call Kuroilers. Kuroilers are a kind of dual purpose birds, and right now I'm not on my farm. This is my dad's farm. Well, I don't know if I can call this a farm or if it qualifies to be called a farm. It's a room that's being used for brooding, and currently it's night time, it's quite dark, but I figured why not come here, take a look at the birds. Well, I've been taking a look at the birds for quite some time, but I was thinking, why not record, show people what's happening on my farm, probably a different aspect and a different way of keeping these chickens. And this is a really interesting one. There's lots of positives that I love about it, and there's lots of things that could be done better, and we're going to be checking them out. But in case you're thinking, what are Kuroilers? Like I said, Kuroilers are a type of dual purpose birds that originated, I believe, from India. So these are birds that are very good, that they can be used for both eggs and meat. They put on quite some weight, They can put on up to 5 kilograms, that's for the males. The females up to 4 kilograms. Or even better, if you feed them well enough. So my dad is keeping the F2 generation. Just in case you're wondering, what is an F2 generation? Well, in chickens, or during the breeding of chickens, we have what we call an F1 generation, F0 and F2. F0 are what we call the parent stock, the initial parents of the birds. When it comes to commercial birds, this is very important. For the traditional kind of birds, it's not as important, because the genetics doesn't play a very big role. But for commercial birds, the genetics play a big role. So the parent stock is the parents of the bird. There are usually two distinct breeds, for the male and for the female. The F1 generations are the children of the parent stock, the very first generation after that. And this is the F2. So my dad has been keeping an F1 generation of Kuroilers that he had for some time, probably since last year, 2020. I'm not certain, probably since late 2019. I'm really not sure, I don't remember very well. But this is the F2. That means that his parent stock are actually an F1 generation. They are not an F0 generation. And that has its repercussions, of course, yeah? The repercussions being, the genes passed on to the F2 generation are not the very best. It's acceptable to keep birds as an F2 generations, but what you're going to be getting is not the very best, it's not top notch, like if you are getting an F1 generation. So these birds, my dad should never ever expect them to perform as well as the F1 generation, as the parents of these birds. So they're not going to put on as much weight as the parents, and they're not going to be laying as many eggs as the parents. Kuroilers can lay up to 200, 210 eggs every year. So for my dad, he should never expect that, because this is an F2 generation. Those are the repercussions. But on the brighter side, you don't get to pay for the chicks, really. You don't get to pay lots of money for the chicks, because you have the eggs and everything. All he does is take the birds to a hatchery. They hatch out the eggs, and they give him the birds. And as you guys can see, my dad has set out his room in an interesting way. So he has decided not to brood like I did. His room is an enclosed room, As you guys can see, there are walls all around. And actually, this is day 9 of having the birds. This is day 9 of having the birds. And the birds, before the brooding was taking place in the room just next to this room, on the other side. So they have just been moved here today, actually. They were moved in here today. And the previous room did have, wood shavings on the floor. He has done better. I think he had me talk about it, and he got some wood shavings on the floor. So we probably have about 1 inch or 2 of the wood shavings right now, which is a very good idea. In the previous room, he had less than 1 inch, and that wasn't a very good thing. But again, the birds are not poking a lot. And the advantages of having such a kind of room is that the room gets really, really warm, It gets really warm because of the walls. All the heat gets kept inside, all the heat. The walls are going to absorb all the heat. Then with time, as the stoves start losing all the heat and everything, the heat is going to be retained inside the walls, and this place really, really remains warm, and that's a very good thing. The disadvantage with it is, the place is not as aerated. And I can feel it right now, it's a little bit stuffy. The air is not very, very fresh air. So you could have what we call carbon monoxide poisoning coming from the stoves and things like that, because it's not very aerated. And that, of course, could pass on to the birds, where the birds could get sick. But my dad is not planning on keeping these birds in here for a very long time. He's just doing his brooding in here, and then after that, he's going to be moving them to a very open place, like more open than I would want, but a very open place. He's planning on, doing something which is more of like a semi-free range system. So the birds won't be taking very long here, he'll be moving them away. You guys can see the drinkers, he's using the same kinds of drinkers I used, which has no problem at all. The other thing is that these birds, guys, put on weight quicker compared to my layers. They are very ferocious eaters because they put on weight quicker, like way quicker. My birds at this age didn't have this much weight. They clearly did have feathers, but for the weight wasn't this much, because my birds, the layers, are not meant to put on weight. They're not being bred for weight. You just want them to lay as much as possible. So these ones, the goal is, to keep them as broilers, sell them off at probably around 12 weeks or so, 2 months, 3 months, start selling them off for me. So for him, it will work, and it's a very good idea. Currently, he has changed the lighting system to, just use the energy saver bulbs. I hope you guys can see them. Before, when the birds were in the previous room, he was using both the charcoal stoves and bulbs, 100-watt bulbs, and I didn't like the idea. Actually, I did tell him about that, and I think that's why he changed it. Because I didn't think the heat that's produced by 100-watt bulbs, the usual 100-watt bulbs, is worth the electricity that you're paying. Those bulbs really suck your electricity. So your electricity bill is really going to go up. Yet the heat that's being produced is not significant enough to warm up the place. I tested it and it just didn't make sense. So he has decided to keep the stoves, and it's doing really well. You can see the birds are spaced out nicely. They are feeding very, very nicely. They are putting on the weight, and I think we're going to have a really interesting farm over here, Like I said, this is not my farm, so I'll be popping in once in a while, just to see how things are happening. I'll probably give an update probably once a month or something like that. Just to show you guys a different aspect, a different perspective of keeping birds, which is not just layers, like I'm doing on my chicken farm. This is really it going on the farm. There's nothing very big, just a different aspect of this. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. I'll try to answer as many as possible, Otherwise, thanks for watching. Catch you guys very, very soon with another video. Lots of love. Bye-bye.